By the end of 2024, the BRICS Plus bloc accounted for nearly 37% of global GDP and purchasing power parity, surpassing the G7's share. This isn't just a statistical quirk, it signals a fundamental redistribution of global power. The post-1-2 Western-led order is being upended by the rise of BRICS, now expanded to include major energy producers and key trade route nations. BRICS Plus is more than a club for the global South. Its appeal is now global, with even 2 EU member states openly exploring membership. This move exposes deep fissures within the Western alliance and raises tough questions about the future of global alliances. The world is entering a multipolar era, and BRICS Plus is at its center. The story of BRICS begins in 2001, when the term BRIC was first coined by a Goldman Sachs economist. It grouped together Brazil, Russia, India, and China, 4 large, fast-growing economies that were predicted to become the engines of global growth in the 21st century. At the time, these countries were seen as emerging markets with enormous potential, but they had little formal connection to each other. The idea was simple. Together, they could reshape the world's economic landscape, challenging the dominance of established Western economies. What started as an economic label soon evolved into something much more significant. Policymakers from these nations recognized the power of collaboration and began to meet regularly. In 2009, they held their first official summit, marking the transformation of BRIC from a concept into a real political alliance. This gathering signaled their intent to work together on issues ranging from trade and investment to global governance and development. The alliance expanded in 2010 when South Africa joined the group, making it BRICS. This addition was more than symbolic. It brought the African continent into the fold, giving the group a truly global reach. With South Africa on board, BRICS became a platform for cooperation across 4 continents, amplifying its voice on the world stage and increasing its influence in international affairs. Unlike traditional Western alliances such as NATO or the European Union, BRICS operates as a flexible, consensus-based platform. It brings together major non-Western powers who share a vision of a more multipolar world, one where global power is distributed more evenly, and emerging economies have a greater say in shaping international rules and institutions. Frustrated by the slow pace of reforms at the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, which they felt did not adequately represent their interests, BRICS members took matters into their own hands. In 2014, they established the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement. These institutions were designed to provide financial support for development projects and to offer an alternative to Western-dominated financial systems, signaling BRICS's commitment to building new structures for global cooperation. The group's ambitions grew even further in 2024, when BRICS underwent its largest expansion yet. Saudi Arabia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Ethiopia joined the bloc, transforming it into BRICS Plus. This expansion dramatically increased the group's demographic and economic weight, bringing together some of the world's most populous nations and key players in global energy markets. Today, BRICS Plus represents about 45% of the world's population and commands a dominant share of global oil production. Its members span diverse regions, cultures, and economies, but they are united by a common goal: to shape a fairer, more balanced international order that reflects the realities of the 21st century. The bloc's ambition is clear: to become the leading platform for the global South, giving a stronger voice to developing nations and serving as a counterweight to the G7. By fostering cooperation among emerging economies, BRICS Plus aims to address shared challenges, promote sustainable development, and advocate for reforms in global governance. The rapid evolution of BRICS Plus signals a new era in global power dynamics. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected and multipolar, the alliance stands poised to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of international relations, economics, and development for decades to come. Italy and Hungary, both EU members, have formally signaled interest in joining BRICS Plus, a move that challenges the cohesion of the Western Bloc. For decades, EU membership was the ultimate goal for European nations. Now, some seek alternatives. Italy's motivation is economic. Years of stagnation, high debt, and frustration with EU constraints have driven it to look eastward. Hungary's pivot is political and ideological, with Prime Minister Orbán seeking greater sovereignty and alignment with non-Western powers. Both countries see BRICS Plus as a way to secure their interests in a changing world, not as a rejection of Europe, but as a bold assertion of independence. their gambit signals a profound shift in the European project and global alliances. Italy's growing interest in joining BRICS is deeply rooted in years, if not decades, of economic stagnation, and a mounting sense of disillusionment with the Eurozone. Once considered one of Europe's economic powerhouses, Italy has struggled to regain its former momentum, and many Italians now question whether the current system truly serves their national interests. The country's industrial base, once the pride of the nation, has steadily eroded as factories close and jobs disappear. Youth unemployment remains alarmingly high, leaving an entire generation uncertain about their future. Meanwhile, public debt has reached crippling levels, limiting the government's ability to invest in growth and innovation. These economic challenges have fueled a search for new solutions and partners beyond traditional European alliances. Italy's 2019 endorsement of China's Belt and Road Initiative was a bold signal of its willingness to break with Western consensus and seek opportunities elsewhere. This move highlighted Italy's desire to diversify its economic partnerships and attract much-needed investment, even if it meant ruffling feathers in Brussels and Washington. The expanded BRICS Plus bloc now offers Italy access to vast new markets, fresh investment capital, and the resources of the new development bank, potential lifelines for an economy in need of revitalization. For Italian policymakers, these opportunities represent a chance to break free from the constraints of the Eurozone and chart a more independent economic course. For Italian brands and businesses, the bloc's 3.5 billion consumers represent a largely untapped source of growth. Expanding into these emerging markets could breathe new life into Italy's export sector, create jobs, and restore confidence in the country's economic future. Energy security is another powerful draw. With BRICS Plus now including major oil producers, Italy sees a chance to secure long-term energy contracts at favorable terms, reducing its vulnerability to price shocks and supply disruptions. This could help stabilize costs for Italian industries and households alike. The economic logic is clear. Rome views BRICS Plus as a potential pathway to revitalize its struggling economy and reduce its heavy dependence on the European Union. By forging new alliances, Italy hopes to regain its economic sovereignty and restore its place on the world stage. Of course, the risks are high. Aligning with BRICS Plus could strain Italy's relationships with traditional allies and expose it to new uncertainties. But for a nation eager for change, the potential rewards, renewed growth, greater independence, and a brighter future, are simply too great to ignore. Hungary's BRICS ambitions are driven by Prime Minister Viktor Orban's long-term strategy to rebalance the country's foreign policy away from its traditional Western alliances. For years, Orban has argued that Hungary's future prosperity and security depend on diversifying its international partnerships, rather than relying solely on the European Union and the United States. His Eastern Opening policy, launched over a decade ago, seeks to build stronger economic, political, and cultural ties with major powers like Russia and China. This approach often puts Hungary at odds with EU norms and values, especially regarding democracy, rule of law, and human rights, but Orban insists it's necessary for national sovereignty and economic growth. As a result, Hungary has become a key European hub for Chinese investment, particularly in sectors like electric vehicles, battery manufacturing, and technology. At the same time, Hungary maintains close energy ties with Russia, securing long-term gas and nuclear deals that provide stability but raise eyebrows in Brussels. By seeking BRICS membership, Hungary aims to formalize these relationships and gain a seat at the table with some of the world's fastest-growing economies. This move offers an alternative to the political and economic pressures often exerted by the EU, giving Budapest more leverage on the global stage. For Orban, BRICS represents a club of nations that respect sovereignty and non-interference, principles he believes the EU increasingly disregards. He sees BRICS as a platform where Hungary's voice can be heard without the constant threat of sanctions or criticism over domestic policies. This is a high-stakes bet on a rapidly changing multipolar world order. Orban hopes that by aligning with both East and West, Hungary can maximize its autonomy, boost its influence, and secure a more independent future. Critics, both at home and abroad, warn that this pivot could isolate Hungary from its closest allies and expose it to new risks. Yet for Budapest, it's seen as a pragmatic, even necessary move to ensure survival and relevance in a world where global power is shifting fast. For Italy and Hungary, BRICS Plus promises access to huge markets and new sources of investment. The new development bank could fund critical infrastructure without the austerity strings attached to EU or IMF loans. But joining BRICS Plus while in the EU is fraught with legal conflicts, trade penalties, and possible suspension of EU rights. Aligning with Russia and China could scare off Western investors and trigger capital flight. The economic gamble is stark, trading the certainty of the EU for the uncertain promise of the East. The stakes couldn't be higher. Italy and Hungary's BRICS overtures would send shockwaves through the EU and NATO. Their move would be seen as a betrayal, shattering the EU's fragile unity on foreign policy and isolating them within Brussels. Trust would evaporate and their influence would plummet. The US would likely respond with diplomatic and security pressure, possibly curtailing intelligence sharing and military cooperation. For Russia and China, it would be a propaganda coup, proof of Western decline and BRICS's growing appeal. Italy and Hungary could become Trojan horses within the EU and NATO, deepening divisions. The diplomatic fallout would redraw Europe's geopolitical map. The continent's unity would be tested as never before. The EU and BRICS Plus are fundamentally different. The EU is a deeply integrated bloc with pooled sovereignty, a single market, and shared values of democracy and rule of law. BRICS Plus is a loose, intergovernmental forum, no binding treaties, no supranational institutions, just consensus and a focus on sovereignty. The EU's power is regulatory and normative, shaping global standards through its market size. Its weakness, slow, fragmented foreign policy. BRICS Plus wields raw demographic and economic power, especially in energy and commodities. It's united by a desire to challenge Western dominance, not by shared values. Its flexibility and focus on sovereignty attract countries frustrated with the old order. The two blocs represent competing visions for the future of global governance. If Italy and Hungary pursue BRICS membership, they'll face fierce backlash, political isolation in the EU, legal penalties, and economic fallout. Financial markets could punish them, raising borrowing costs and downgrading their credit. The EU might restrict their access to the single market, while NATO could limit security cooperation. The risk becoming geopolitical outcasts, trusted by neither side. Their choice is a bellwether for a world in flux, where old alliances fray and new power centers rise. The stakes are enormous, not just for Rome and Budapest, but for the future of international alliances. As global power shifts, how will other nations navigate the widening divide between East and West?